Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the Indy's Trusted Servant Show on InspireSmall.biz. Each Monday at 3 p.m., a new episode goes up. What is Indy's Trusted Servant? Well, that's me, Danny O'Malia. I'm Indy's Trusted Servant. I do customer service training and keynote speaking about customer service. It's all about the culture of the organization. Culture determines the service level. Wired, Chick-fil-A, and Nordstrom, and up until Christmas break, Southwest Airlines, better than everybody else in their industry. Well, they had great cultures and they kept them, which is not easy to do. I learned all of that from at the hand of the master, my late father, Joe O'Malia, who built a wonderful culture at O'Malia Food Markets. And even before that, when I was about 9 and 10 years old, he had a little grocery store in Broad Ripple where the Vanguard bar is now. It had one cash register and 8 or 9 employees, one of which was a 9 and 10-year-old kid. He lost that store back in the mid-'50s and came back 10 years later and successfully launched O'Malia Food Markets. And one of my lessons at my dad's hand was never, ever, ever give up. If you are interested in my customer service trainings or keynote speeches, give me a call at 317-413-9062. What's the Indy's Trusted Servant Show on InspireSmall.biz? I like to describe it as lively local small biz and community talk where you can feel the pulse of Indy. And my guest today, speaking of community, is a good friend. I'm not even sure how far back we go, but she once had me do a keynote at a CPA firm she was working with.
Yep.
And she was in the Rotary with me. 10 years ago. That doesn't surprise me. She was in the Indianapolis Rotary with me before I moved to Carmel, and she is now with the Central Indiana Police Foundation. Lisa Rawlings, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Well, it's great to have you. She's been on the show back in the radio days, and then I think you did a video with us a few months ago, right?
Yeah.
So, but the Central Indiana Police Foundation is something that I really have a lot of respect for. And in this day and age, with all the anti-police rhetoric that's out there and so on and so forth, I think it becomes even more important. So, first of all, tell the viewers a little bit about Lisa before she got to the foundation, and then we'll talk foundation.
Yeah. So, actually, I am not from Indianapolis, but I love Indianapolis. Been here since 2000 and met my husband once I moved here. And so we've settled and raised our family here. So I have a lot of experience in the day in working in higher education.
Okay.
So
what specifically?
Marketing student loans, and then I was
okay.
I've worked in admissions offices and financial aid offices. So
what schools?
Well, Marian University. I worked in the financial aid office for a period of time there. So yeah.
Great school. It's got a lot going for it.
Yes, I was trying to get my son to go there, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I love Marian. It's a great college.
It's a great school. It's grown. It's expanded its wings with the medical school and the nursing school, and they got a great business school. Okay, so from there, what'd you do?
So after student loans changed, I was trying to find my footing, something I could be passionate about and enjoy, and kind of bebopped around with a couple careers, but so now, about starting 5 years ago, I started with the Central Indiana Police Foundation and absolutely love my work. What I do is supporting the law enforcement officers in a variety of ways in the police departments.
So what is the genesis of the Police Foundation? How old is it?
Okay.
And how did it start? And then we'll get into the current day and maybe the future.
Yeah, so we started in 2013, and the whole focus initially was to research, raise funds, and provide a medical emergency kit for police officers. And that is to stop the bleeding until they can get an EMT on site. So that they can then be transported and treated at the hospital. But what happens is when there's a shooting, oftentimes they can't bring an EMT on site right away. They've got to clear the scene and make sure that whoever was shooting has been secured or the threat is stopped.
Yes.
And so within seconds, there's so much loss of blood. If that can be stopped, then the potential for that person to live, right, is is going to increase if we can stop the bleeding. And so that's what the kit does.
That's what the kid did. I had the pleasure as a part of Indianapolis Rotary of coming down to the foundation
Yes,
and
that's right.
doing, I guess it's like a kind of a smorgasbord line,
Yep.
putting those kits together.
Yes, yes.
So the around here, IPD has the kits.
Yes, so Indianapolis Police was the first one to receive the kits back in 2015, and we have totally given away. Oh my gosh, I think we're about 11,000 kits so far.
So what other police departments?
Every police department in Central Indiana has been given the kits.
In the eight
Donut
counties. Yeah.
And then we have been working on some Southern Indiana police departments and state police. So we are about 180 kits shy of making sure that the Indiana State Police, every single state, well, it's trooper, they're troopers.
Right.
That every single trooper has one of these kits in their car. So, and we have the funds to do that, and we're getting ready to schedule that kit assembly with Lucas Oil products here shortly, and we'll be able to distribute the last 180 kits so that every officer state trooper has one.
So every police car has these kits in them.
They should.
Right.
They should.
And hopefully the policemen have been trained how to use them.
They have.
Right?
Yep.
You guys do the training?
So we offer the training. Most larger departments already have the training involved with the academy and with other forms of, recertification, things like that. Some of the smaller departments, we work with them to make sure they have training, and we actually have the training in a video form, so at the very minimum, they can have their officers watch that video or use that video to refresh their training if they haven't used the kits for a while. With the Indianapolis Police Department, their officers are literally right now using those kits on a weekly basis.
I don't doubt that.
Sad, but thank God they have.
Well, it's probably
the
more
kits.
than once a week, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, lately, yes.
So the police. So how do you raise your money to get these
Good
kits
question.
out?
So we do not receive any federal funding. We receive very few grants, and that's only because we just haven't had the time to search, write the grants, etc. So Rotary, we've received grants from Rotary because that's a little bit easier as Rotary members. But almost all of our funding I raise it through individuals and corporations.
Okay.
Myself and my board.
Do you have any fundraising events?
We do.
Have you tell us about those?
Our biggest event every year is our Breakfast with a Cop, which this year will be November 9th, and it's held at the Ritz-Charles. I'm sorry, is it Ritz-Charles? Ritz-Charles Event Center. That didn't sound right for some reason to the brain. But and it's a breakfast 7:30 to 9, and so it's a breakfast with a cop. So a company or an individual can come and sit at a table. We provide an officer there so they can get to know that officer, and they come from all of Central Indiana. And then we have a speaker, and then we do a live auction and fundraiser at that event. And so last year was our best year ever. We raised over $317,000 at our breakfast last year.
What does each kit cost?
The kits cost around $100.
Just $100?
Yeah, just $100.
I'm surprised. Okay, I'm surprised.
And that includes the postage and things like that, and the shipping and things as well. So if you had to the raw kit materials around $90, $85.
Well, I want you to describe the kits, but so this fundraiser, this breakfast with a cop is, you say, in November?
Yeah, so that raises what we call unrestricted funds, which helps pay for operations as well as funds our different areas. But then we have some people who they're passionate about the kits. We've got one donor who likes to remain anonymous. So a lot of times if I get to where I haven't been able to get money for the kits I needed, I reach out to that individual, and their family usually provides what we need. I think they've given us over $200,000
really
for these kits over the years.
Wonderful.
Because that's
wonderful.
where their heart is. And then we do a lot of like smaller events, smaller trauma kit assemblies. So sometimes a corporation will want to have that for their staff, just
like we did it with the Rotary.
Just like Rotary,
right?
like Kite Realty. That was the most recent one. They gave us the money for the kits, and then we brought in lunch, and we had their staff assemble the kits, and we had an officer talk about the use of the kits. So
what's in the kits?
So there is a tourniquet. Okay, that's the most often used piece of equipment. There is an oral airway that opens and allows for CPR to be given on someone who is not conscious. It opens that airway so they can do the CPR compressions and breathe into the mouth without having to hold it back. That
Okay.
airway keeps it open. We have shears. They're called trauma shears, and they are so sharp they can cut through a seatbelt or a Kevlar vest of an officer, or they literally could cut through a penny.
Ooh.
They're very sharp, so they can, get through so we can get attention to the right spots. And then there's something called a bandage, Olace bandage, and I know I'm probably pronouncing that business name wrong, Olace. I think it's pronounced differently, but I never get it right. But the purpose of the bandage is to put a suction over like a bulletproof wound, or if there's a large gaping wound, you can pack that gauze into that wound to stop the bleeding and help clot it.
Okay.
We have gloves in the kit, and we have a prayer card that's provided by one of our partner churches, and I think that's and the kit itself, and sometimes police departments will actually put Narcan, a thing of Narcan in that kit as well. But we don't provide that. It's very short shelf life, and the expense, and so we don't provide that for our kits. But they can fit that in there if they'd like. Boy,
aside from the violent aspect, the fact that you mentioned Narcan, there's another problem in our society that's, my goodness.
Absolutely.
So back to your fundraising thing in November, if somebody wanted to attend the fundraiser, how do they go about that?
Well, the best way would be to go on our site and email us on the email, or they can always find my information, email me.
Talk about the specifics. What's the email?
So our
website
is our acronym, which is Central Indiana Police Foundation, so CIPF. And it's kind of unique because it's a .foundation. So as opposed to .com or .org, we have .foundation.
CIPF .foundation.
Yep.
And you can go there and find out about the fundraiser, right?
Yep. And we are always looking for sponsors. And when you go to our site right now, the biggest thing we're raising money for is a new mounted patrol barn. And we're selling bricks.
Yes, okay.
We're selling bricks where you can be a part of our community and advertise, put in memory of maybe a parent or a family member that's passed. If you're a business, you could put Indy Trusted Servant on one of those bricks. And so those funds will help us finish that building, as well as create a beautiful path with those bricks that will be a sidewalk and then a seating area, hopefully, at the barn.
Okay, that leads to another question. Why a mounted patrol
barn?
Okay,
yeah. Yes.
I don't. Do we have that many police riding horses?
So that's a great question. In the past, we have had more. As you guys all have heard in the media, we're having a horrible shortage of officers.
Yes.
Since the riots, it's been ugly. Literally, we've lost so many officers. The officers that were close to retirement have chosen to retire, and we're just not.
It's hard to replace them, right?
Yeah, and we're not bringing the class. So with that, we currently have 3 full-time officers committed to that unit that are solely focused on that unit.
What unit's that?
The mounted patrol.
How many horses do they have now?
We currently have 7 horses.
Okay.
Yep, and we have 3 other officers who are fully trained and certified, and so they are on the street some of the time, and some of the time they're assigned to the mounted patrol unit when we need extra staff. The goal is that eventually we're going to bring 1 to 2 of those over, and possibly 3 soon. We're working on that, but the problem is the barn where we are currently at. First of all, the barn is in better shape than the offices that our officers are in. The horses get better treatment than our people.
So the police have offices right at the barn?
They are.
So that's going to happen at the new place too.
Yeah, they're
right?
old FEMA trailers, and they're in bad shape.
Okay.
But the barn is an old factory building that's been repurposed. And so that land has been sold over at the old Central State property. And we've been given new land just a few hundred feet from that property that we will build a new barn and offices and indoor riding arena.
This is not on the Central State
It's
grounds.
still on the Central State grounds.
That's a lot of ground there. Yeah, okay,
Yes,
good.
yeah.
Good.
And so with the new barn, we have a lot of fun plans. And I say we, it's really the police do, but I'm just walking beside them, supporting them. But they're going to be able to bring school children in. They're going to be able to have community events and corporate events there, and some different programs. They're also going to be able to potentially do training for other mounted units. So the new barn is just going to be able to bring great things to the city, great things to children, inner city children, especially in homeschool children. We're going to be able to do programming and things like that, on top of all the great things we do as police with the horses.
So what do homeschool children have to do with the barn?
Well, we want to bring them on site, and we want to train them about and introduce them to the police and do some fun curriculum that we can do with the horses. The children.
Could they ride the horses, you think?
At this point, they won't be riding the horses,
Okay.
but they'll learn about the horses, and we'll be able to use the horses with some fun games.
Okay.
Like, we train our horses to play soccer. They have a giant soccer ball. And so there's a lot of fun things that can be done. And we also, this isn't put out there yet. We haven't made an official announcement, but we have 2 miniature horses that we're doing some neat things with children. And the children can just love on them. They're almost like a giant dog, but they're horses and they have hooves. And they're adorable. And so we're going to be doing some fun things and go to some schools with those horses as well.
Okay.
So we just have some really cool plans that's going to benefit the city.
That's police outreach to the schools.
Yes.
Do we have any other programs where the police are outreaching to the schools that you guys are involved in, or?
Yeah, IMPD. Every department has some sort of an outreach, right?
Mm-hmm.
But IMPD, being a bigger department with about 1,500 officers, they have all kinds of awesome programs. One of them is called IMPD Cares, and they put an officer with a middle school student, and they partner with them throughout the whole school year.
Okay.
They meet 2 times after school a week. And then on some Saturdays,
this kind of almost sounds like a big brother, big sister kind of thing.
It is.
Okay.
But what a great way for kids to understand police officers are good. Do we have bad police officers? There's a few. But the majority of these men and women are committed to serving them, taking care of them. And it's run by an officer who grew up in Chicago, inner city Chicago, and had a horrible experience. And he said that when he grew up, he was going to be an officer and he was going to keep inner city kids safe. And so he runs this program. He's an amazing man, Sergeant Keys. And so we're supporting that program and raising funds to help make sure that continues to go on. And that's just one of many programs that IMPD does to invest in the children.
Are you guys connected at all to organizations like the one I know the best is the 7 Point Coalition? Reverend Williams?
I know him. We do some things with him, but Rick Snyder, who's the president of the FOP, he's on our board and he links to him.
Okay.
So sometimes we do things, but Rick is the main point person, Rick Snyder, Lieutenant Snyder. So yes, we've helped with some Christmas programs and some different things and backpacks and donations. And then CIPF will receive amazing donations like from Amazon. And so we get toys, we get health and beauty items, so we'll help supply those. So yes, we do, but it's more, I'm not the direct point person for him.
Well, that's pretty cool that Amazon is doing that.
Yes.
You think of Amazon as a heartless,
Yeah, no, they're not. And if I would tell you, there are so many things that we are privy to and see that goes on in our city that's amazing. And we get to help facilitate. I could just go on, and we'd be here all day.
So, I find this fascinating, and I mentioned the 7 Point Coalition. I really have a lot of respect for Reverend Williams and what they're trying to do.
Absolutely.
And the police are outreaching too, and yet we still have all this horrible stuff going on. So with the kits, back to the kits for a second, and maybe we're not done talking about the horse barn yet. I do have a couple of questions about that, but of what percentage of the people that that are aided by the kits are police? Do you know?
Well, okay, so that's a very good question. And we have asked the police departments about that. And so it's tracked, but it's individual. And so for them to go in, they would have to actually just comb through the data to pull that information.
Be a pain in the neck.
And so we've asked a few times, and they know that they need to track that, but they haven't. However, honestly, the kits were designed to save our officers. However, they are being used on a frequent daily basis for our citizens.
For victims.
And it's not just, gunshot victim. It's, for example, one of our officers, Sergeant Richards, he was a SWAT team at the time. He's doing a different role now, but he was on his way home from working out with a SWAT team and training. And he was in his marked car, comes up on an accident on 465. A woman had been distracted or fell asleep, we don't know, or had an issue, but she went under a semi and her arm was completely severed off. And literally her arm was in the back seat of the car when he got there. He saw it. She was turning blue. The EMT wasn't there, right? So he quickly grabbed his kit. He used the tourniquet to stop the bleeding. He saved her life.
Awesome.
Because it was another 5 minutes before the EMT was there. And if she would have continued to lose blood, saving her life would have been almost impossible with that loss of blood and her going into shock. So it's just crazy. And then we had recently, I think it was Boone or Hamilton County, this has been a couple years ago, a woman was attacked by a dog and both of her arms were mauled to the point where she ended up losing one. They used 2 tourniquets to stop the bleeding to save her life. So they're used on a regular. And if we don't provide the kits, the officers often have to buy the tourniquets out of their own pocket. They're not provided those up to this point. Most departments don't provide them.
You're talking about them just buying a tourniquet, not the whole kit.
Correct.
Right? The tourniquet's the most basic thing. Okay, back to the horse barn for a minute.
I'm all over the place.
What do we, maybe this is a tough question, but why use a horse as opposed to having a police walk a beat or cars? Okay, what do the horses do that the police can't do otherwise?
I'm so glad you asked that question.
Okay.
When our officers in a car go into neighborhoods that may not be police friendly because maybe the police have arrested their father, mother, uncle, dad, grandpa, whatever, they don't trust police. Right? In their mind, police, some of those folks trust police. They know that they do good, right? But some people don't.
Right.
Or they're afraid to communicate with police because there might be retribution for that, right? So when an officer comes in on one of those horses, it is a complete game changer. They will come out of their house. They will talk to the police officer. They will communicate in a positive way.
That's really weird.
It's amazing. And the police officers, those that are on horse patrol, they're a different, I say this, like they're a different breed. They're police officers, but they have that gift for children. They have that gift with people. And not every police officer has that. And they may have a great heart. But these officers that are on horseback are compassionate, even more so. They just have a way with people. And so they just can build relationships and build bridges that a police officer just driving in the neighborhood with a car doesn't get the opportunity. And the children. And, that's where we want to start. We want to start building positive relationships with children.
Yeah.
So that they too can trust the police and know that the police are there to take care of them and keep them safe and help them. Even though they may, Dad may have been arrested. Dad was doing something he shouldn't have been doing. And, stopping Dad from doing those things is a good thing, right?
Yeah. So back to the fentanyl thing for a second. I don't know how we got onto the fentanyl thing.
Well, Narcan.
Because of Narcan.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's not part of the kit.
That's not part of the kit.
So where are the officers that have the Narcan getting the Narcan?
I think this is my guess, but I think a lot of times the fire department EMTs or the city EMTs has that. I do not know if there's a budget for it. I don't know. I've not asked that question. I just know we haven't done that from the standpoint of it's a short shelf
Shelf
life.
life.
Where the other items have a long shelf life. So I don't
Right,
know. That's
right,
a great question.
right.
But I know many officers are carrying Narcan now. And they need it for themselves because, they'll come across leftover and be exposed. And sometimes it's not, most of the time it's not intentional. It could potentially be intentional. I've been hearing stories of it being purposely, intentionally put on like door handles and things like that. Which is sad and crazy and terrible.
What a world we're living in.
Truth.
And you guys really are doing a lot of good, unbeknownst to almost everybody. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
Right?
And you know what? People will come to me now that they know I work with police, and they'll say, I've always wanted to help. I want to support police. And I remember thinking that myself. I was very pro law enforcement before I ever came into this job and thinking, I want to support them. So the only way I knew how to do, I didn't know where to write a check to support them, right? The only way I knew how was to say, thank you for being here, or thank you for what you do, or picking up their lunch at a restaurant, which you wouldn't believe how many times that happens.
I know it does, yes.
I do it every time I'm in a restaurant and I see officers, I anonymously pick up their lunch or their dinner. So now with Central Indiana Police Foundation, we are a way that we can be a conduit. I have a retired gentleman who every 6 months writes me $1,000 check. And he goes, I just want to support officers and I know you help. And so we send him a t-shirt or a hat or something and thank him, or we're in touch with him. But, we can take those funds and put it where it's there's a need. And so we do great things. It's just really cool.
Any other fundraisers besides Breakfast with a Cop?
Oh, geez. You opened up.
Well, we've got a couple of minutes, so fire away.
We have a purse bingo in Johnson County, August 2nd. We would love to have you come to the purse bingo or sponsor it. Not just ladies, men can come too, and men have a great time with all of us ladies.
I don't even want to think about it.
It's so much fun. We've got Rafael Sanchez coming and being our MC, so that'll be a blast.
If somebody wants to go to that, how do they do that?
Look on our website. We have
Give that to us again.
CIPF.foundation.
Okay.
We have the polo event the last Friday in August, which is a great family event. You can come, bring a carload, bring a picnic, and join us there. It's so awesome, beautiful animals, lots of fun, lots of people. The kids can have a candy drop in the middle, in the break. There'll be a candy drop.
Is the polo event out at the polo grounds?
It's up north.
Somewhere, yeah.
So we've got stuff on both sides of town.
Yeah.
And then we've got the breakfast, and then online we have the brick fundraiser. And anytime people want to donate, they can donate and choose what fund they want.
Okay, great. Well, Lisa Rollings with the Indiana State Police Foundation. Thanks for being here.
Central Indiana Police Foundation.
Central Indiana.
And I only correct you because there is a state police association.
Okay. Well, I'm sure they do.
They do great work too.
I'm sure they do. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Next month, my guest will be my other daughter. You all met Colleen a few months ago. My daughter Janet Andriol, who has spent a lifetime in education, teaching, being a principal, working with the state education association. She has started a new tutoring thing called Learn Away with Mrs. A. And we're going to talk about that. It's just in its infancy next week on the Indy's Trusted Servant Show. Lisa, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Ryan, thanks for having us. We'll see you next week.